Hello and welcome. You're watching NewsX and I'm Shivani Singh. Delhi's air remains toxic for the third consecutive week, with the air quality index plunging into the very poor category across several parts of the city. The thick haze blanketing the capital is being blamed on a sharp spike in farm fires in neighboring states. Punjab alone has reported over 175 FIRs on this, even as double burning cases have risen by nearly 60% compared to last year. Authorities are scrambling to enforce emergency measures under grappling AQI index. This includes curbs on construction, entry of heavy vehicles, and closure of schools in some areas. Meanwhile, frustration is rising among residents. Some Delhiites say they have even left the city to escape the choking smog. Experts have warned that despite repeated alarms year after year, long-term solutions remain missing. The question now echoes across the smog-filled skyline. When will Delhi finally breathe free? To discuss this issue, we have Padma Shri Dr. Sanjeev Baghai, Chairman, Nephron Clinic, Indra Shekhar Singh, Agri-Policy Analyst, and Joyata Basu, Editor of the Sunday Guardian, joining us on this broadcast. I want to go across to Dr. Baghai first. Sir, every year during this time, it's the same. We discuss the same issues year after year, that Delhi is breathing toxic air. However, we are not seeing any changes despite a lot of plans and measures being implemented. Is Delhi going to become unlivable now? Because we are seeing people fleeing the city.
So very clearly, the pollution is not a winter phenomenon. Unfortunately, we only discussed this during the last few months of every year and maybe January, February every year. But the pollution levels, be it of the various ingredients of PM 2.5, PM 10, ultrafine particles, be it the sulfur dioxide, nitrogen dioxide, or carbon monoxide, toxic gases, fumes, methane, heavy metals, particulate matter, especially the micro nanoplastics, are there 12 months a year. So I think we need a national policy. I've advocated for this many times over many months. We need a separate department in the government which looks after combating air pollution, which is led by scientists, doctors, and environmentalists. We can't leave this to be working in silos. Different states are putting the blame on each other. The farm fires in Punjab is still going on. Kejriwal has turned out to be a massive disaster as far as Delhi or national politics is concerned. So let me give you some data. Out of 8.5 roughly million people who die because of direct impact of air pollution, the Indian mortality load is 3 million. That's approximately 25 to 30% of the overall global load of deaths because of air pollution lie in India. We are losing almost 10 to 11 years of our adult life living in Delhi NCR because of air pollution. Just a mere 10% increase in PM 2.5. And I'm repeating this for the benefit of the viewers. A 10% increase in PM 2.5 gives you a twofold, that means 200% increase in cardiorespiratory and metabolic mortality. What does this imply? We are following Indian standards, which are about 40 to 50 micrograms per meter cube of PM 2.5. The global standards is less than 5, now modified to 15. If you look at the global standards point of view, this damage is colossal. Every increase in PM 2.5 by every notch is giving 12,000 deaths in Delhi every year. We are losing people like 9 pings because of direct air pollution. When you're looking at data, 8.6% of all deaths are because of increase of PM 2.5 by 10 micrograms. Moving away from the data, and before we move along, 25% of the annual Indian load of deaths is because of air pollution. I mean, that is just simply ridiculous. We can't leave Delhi. there are logistic issues, there are career issues, there are professional issues, there are family issues. A lot of people don't have that option. So I think looking at moving out of Delhi is just putting the Frankenstein, which is man-made, underneath the carpet and hoping someone else will come and sweep the floor. We need a cohesive policy. We need implementation of the law. Why have arrests not taken place of the farmers who are lighting the fires? Why are the polluting industries not been shut down and put punitive damages? Why have the construction norms not been followed? In the street where I live in Vasant Vihar, which is a A-grade colony in South Delhi, there are 4 major houses being constructed on Purvi Marg with zero care to the pollution and environment. So we need stricter laws, we need implementation. Let me explain in the last just 60 seconds. Air pollution is not PM 2.5 alone. It includes a host of other invisible particles. It damages the heart, the lung, the brain, the fetus, unborn fetus, the pregnancies, your bone health, direct impact on obesity, diabetes, hypertension, strokes, skin disorders, eye disorders, dementia, Alzheimer's, memory loss, you name it. It causes stunting of the children under the age group of 5. We are losing not this generation, we are harming the next generations manyfold. It's time that we take this on a war footing. We can't deal with this just a few months a year. This concept of air seeding, of cloud seeding, of artificial rain, this is just a mere gimmick. 25, 30, 35 crores gone down the drain. Whose money? Our money. The roads are not in order. The traffic is still not being sorted out. We don't need nuclear scientists to come and do this for us. We need an iron hand, we need a clear vision, we need a strong will. We must give clean air to the Indians who live in Delhi NCR and elsewhere. It's our constitutional right.
Absolutely. I want to rope in Indra Shekhar Singh on this discussion and issue. I want to understand, every year it's the same. Delhi becomes a gas chamber, literally. And despite repeated warnings, despite plans, everything fails. And even right now, we have the farm fires coming to the fore. They are in the spotlight again. Why do you think that this is happening? Decades of awareness, subsidy schemes, why is everything failing?
Because it's intended to fail. And although the doctor has already very brilliantly, talked about all the medical issues and everything, I would just add one more point here, that it is failure and death and suicide by design. I think that's what's happening here. We have to keep, how long can we keep quiet? How long should we remain silent when we see that our future, our present is being destroyed with our own money? So the solutions for agriculture that were given have not worked out. If I've been shouting this like from a really long time, writing articles about this, also doing rounds research, that the problems and the programs that the government is talking about actually are not helping on the ground. I'm not talking state or center. It's not my thing to point at any political parties, but the government of India has failed now repeatedly for many years is to provide the correct machinery to the farmers, provide correct incentive to the farmers, and to develop an agri-based industry in these areas, so that the straw and this stubble burning problem can finish and the straw can be utilized as industrial raw material. We have completely failed to do this, and we are failing in this. Political class does not want the problems. If this is solved, how can there be more corruption on the issue? Today we've, again, now everyone knows this, that it's not just the farmers, it's also some other things like vehicular pollution, industries. We have had the Yamuna frothing. Only last year, we've seen multiple times the Yamuna was frothing because of pollution. Why is it happening? Where are the central control reserve boards, pollution control boards? Where are the pollution control boards of Haryana, of Uttar Pradesh, of Punjab, and all these areas? Where are those? Why are the protocols not being followed? So, right now in the winter, when all these particulate pollution condenses, we can see it, and then everyone's raising a huge cry. Otherwise, the population of this city and the population of this region, especially the poorer people, their lives are now become a scientific experiment of mutation. What happens in extreme scenarios, and how does the human gene mutate when it's placed under so much pollution? I think there's a scientific experiment going on right now with the city, and we are all willing or unwilling participants. People who have money can move out of the city, that they can, buy air purifiers, and again, increase the overall electricity load and other things.
Right.
And for the some of us who cannot leave the city, who are bound to the city because of one reason or the other, have to just be part of this cruel mutation-based scientific experiment.
Right.
Even if the government wants today, it can increase wetlands, it can increase carbon sequestration, it can stop cars. In China, in Beijing was one of the most polluted areas in the world, and in 10 years' time, they changed everything around. Why can't Delhi do that? Instead of doing that, we are cutting trees. Instead of actually preserving our rivers and making them more carbon absorbing and pollution absorbing, we are cementifying our ghats and calling it beautification. So in all ways, you're causing damage to the earth and nature's ability to re-heal the environment and make it livable for humans. Somehow we think that money will save us, but money will not save us. And the corruption definitely will have to pay. And sadly, the people who are doing the corruption, their children are sitting in air conditions and air purifiers, whereas we are part of this mutating, sad death game, which will finally lead
All right,
to...
I want to, taking a cue from that, I want to rope in Joyita into this discussion. Joyita, is this becoming, is the public actually becoming desensitized to this entire issue? Also, I want you to address, do you think the centre should come in more aggressively in this issue?
Well, if you are talking in terms of desensitization, I think that has taken place to a large extent, because when you are looking at people, what they do is, okay, it's the weather quality. I mean, just talk about in terms of the general people. Nobody is thinking in terms of how this can be prevented. And if you see, in fact, in group discussions, and nowadays we are, all of us are on social media and on platforms like WhatsApp and all, no one is talking about it. I mean, that is something may seem very surprising, but it's a fact that no one is talking about it. They think in terms of, maybe we are going to use masks for a couple of days. And if you look at Delhi, I'm just talking, taking the example of Delhi, nobody is wearing a mask. I mean, 99.99% people are not wearing masks in Delhi. Even I am not. I don't know about you, at least I am not. Because you see, that seriousness of the problem has not really hit us. And there is already talk about, oh, it is better this year than it was last year. Because you see what has happened, there's some kind of a gap has come between Diwali and the Parali burning season. So the two together have not really compounded the situation to the levels it was say last year, because when they were kind of Diwali was later. So you see, but that does not take away from the fact of the the intensity of the problem, the severity of the problem. It's very, very serious. And yes, nowadays modern homes, particularly in places like Delhi, and I am certain even in Punjab and Haryana and all these places, and I mean, these are reasonably affluent people. So air purifiers have really gone up. The sale of air purifiers have gone up. People are using air purifiers at home. They are reacting to the problem. We have become reactive that way. We are reacting to the problem. We are not looking for a solution. We are trying to find, okay, how to cope with it. Okay, I think that is the fundamental problem here. Now, when you are looking at, if you are going to talk about the agriculture situation and all, you see, I mean, it is not that there are not means and ways of stopping this, preventing this, particularly the stubble burning. But then what do you do? But what happens in this case, you see, I mean, let's face it, it's a country of freebies. There are too many freebies happening, and these farmers also, they expect these machines and everything to be given to them free. Okay, this is something called happy seeder, super seeder, and stuff like that. So they want their maximum profit. They want the easy way out, because it's cheaper, faster to get rid of that stubble by burning them than trying to decompose them, and than trying to to get into some kind of a little more, something that is a little more expensive. There will be some expense included. Then of course, things like, say for example, crop diversification. You go and tell that to the farmers of Punjab, and particularly Punjab, they are not going to do it. So when you are talking about lack of sensitization, I mean, there is a complete desensitization of the people, it starts at the ground level, it starts with the farmers. You know, we may keep on blaming the authorities and everything, but you give them, until and unless these people are getting things for free, they are not going to do it. Okay, so there is a serious need for education, but then the whole point is, if something is a little more expensive, so what do? Then you have to change your crop cycle. You know, you have to change your the way it was earlier. Okay, when the wind was not moving towards Delhi, I think sometime in 2009 it was changed, because Delhi was not getting this kind of smog. But there are political reasons involved in this, and not necessarily agricultural reasons, primarily because of political reasons. And no government, because of political reasons also, are going to go and tell the farmers that, sorry, number one, you have to diversify, you have to stop burning stubble. They are not going to do it, because it is very unpopular on the ground, because ultimately the culprit is the farmer. Okay, and they are being indulged by the authorities.
Right. I want to go across to Dr. Baghai. There is, very dangerous levels of AQI, and you've already mentioned how vulnerable certain groups of the population are, apart from normal human beings as well. But are we normalizing the abnormal? Because there's air purifier. We've been talking about air purifiers in every home. We've been talking about wearing masks 24/7. Is it time to treat air pollution as a public health emergency rather than an environment issue?
This is a public health emergency, and it's been going on for more than a couple of weeks. Let me explain this. Once a community, a society, a nation accepts mediocrity and lack of governance, you're destined for failure. I think we need a citizen's voice which is coming out loud and clear. It's our constitutional right under Article 21 to have clean air to breathe. Point number two, my colleague very lucidly pointed out about cancers. I didn't mention it in detail. There are more than 100 studies which are focused on air pollution, the constituents of it, including carbon dioxide, SOx, NOx, PM 2.5, and particulate matter of micro nanoplastic, which damages the DNA and the chromosomes. There is a concept known as methylation, which gets disrupted. Your cells have mitochondria, which are your energy factory in your cells. They get destroyed, they die. There are studies also to show the fetuses which are born because of genetic disorders are born with absent kidneys. Can you imagine what we are doing to our next generation? There are enough studies to show that there is 25% underestimation, that means underreporting of PM 2.5 and PM 10, primarily because there is a hygroscopic nature of these particles in the early winter morning fog, in which the water is absorbed by these particles and they tend to cluster together. So the particulate matter actually is much more, but the counting is lesser because they aggregate together. It's called as clustering. So your real AQI, if it's reading as 400 or 500, please add a 25%, and that's your true AQI in the air. We are not talking of the toxic gases, no one is bothering to talk about it. We are not talking of the micro nanoplastic, which is also cancerous, carcinogen class 1A, no one is talking about it. This is a public health emergency. So let me explain why it is a public health emergency. Within 15 minutes of this exposure to this toxic air, any human being can have respiratory distress. Within a day, you can be susceptible to get a heart attack or a stroke. And within 3 to 5 days, you get a non-revivable sudden cardiac arrest staying at home. This is not fair for citizens. Again, I'm begging whoever is responsible, whoever is seeing this program, you need a national policy implemented by a strict law. We cannot have this as a non-departmental issue. We need a ministry for this. We need a law. We need enough law enforcement. Put in 10 farmers into jail for life for endangering other people. This is an act amounting to killing people. Call it homicide or murder, I don't care. But people are dying directly because of this. There are more than 7,000 researched, peer-reviewed articles in international and national journals. There is data which is pure India-centric. There is data now available which is published, which is only Delhi-centric. Data is irrevocable. It's staring at our face.
Right. Dr. Bagai, I think that's an important issue that you've raised, that whether there should be legal accountability for all of this, criminal even if possible, and that is what will act as a deterrent going forward. Indra Shekhar Singh, I want to rope you in back into this discussion, and taking off from where you last left off, do you think primarily this is because of a governance failure, or people actually, citizens can do more in this issue? Also, is there political reluctance to act because farmers are in the picture?
So I think it's a mixture. It's quite a hybrid situation where, of course, I think primarily I can blame the political class and the ineffectiveness of the proposed solutions that has got us to this point. If we can have upgraded plans, not just for farmers, I agree that farmers should not grow stubble burning. In fact, in my opinion, they should all convert to organic agriculture all around the NCR region, so that there is better environmental protection, there's protection of our water, soil, and the government should facilitate that program by actually having that, hey, you all grow organically so that there are less chemicals and less pollution in our air, and also providing them some kind of a market force through which they can sell these produce, which are then they are producing, and they don't have to depend on the MSP system for rice and wheat. So I think that's one step to finish the problem once and for all. We can convert all these farmers into organic farmers and actually help save the soil, save water, and all these other things.
But Indra Shekhar Singh, isn't that that will take a long term to in fact implement? Are we forgetting our economic realities? Are we forgetting the lack of alternatives that farmers actually have in the short run? Because this is a problem we are dealing year on year.
I would beg to disagree with you and say that if the government announces an MSP and a cluster program today on this very date, by the next 2 years, we can have enrollments in this program which will be all across the belt. If the government has an MSP-like program for procuring, that we will do a guaranteed procurement of all the organic things that you produce, instead of procuring paddy and wheat from Punjab, Punjab will turn overnight. You have to understand the ground reality of Punjab, also of Haryana, that farmers are farming not for food, they are farming for money. And as soon as you tell them that, well, there is an ecological alternative and the money will not change, the same amount of money you'll receive, why should that be a problem? I think if the farmers' profit levels are maintained and they have income support, they'll be willing to shift in one season. And this is coming from, not from reading, but actually talking with farmers and having spent a lot of time in these areas. Now, I would also like to bring focus to what are we doing about the industrial emissions? What are we doing about all these polluting industries that are in and around Delhi? Like, have they stopped to function? The answer is no, they haven't. There are still many loopholes. Most of them maybe are shut on paper, but in reality, the brick kilns, all these other things that are around the city, they are still functioning and they are still causing a lot of pollution. Now, the vehicle response, why can't we stop the vehicles, like non-necessary vehicles? And people who need to actually travel, give them a pass, especially for the winter month. Let's try it out for 15 days. And if it works, great. If it doesn't work, we'll think of something else. But there needs to be some reduction in vehicular pollution also. And now we can easily say that the farmer problem can be solved just with the organic thing. If we, again, for the industrial thing, I am not just pointing out the problems, but also if we make Delhi and the NCR region into a green industrial base, or a base for sustainable industry, which give out minimum or zero emissions, I think we will not lose jobs in the city also, and also facilitate a transition from a polluting industrial base to a less emission and a clean industrial base. I think that's what's needed. We have to be futuristic in our thinking. And I think with just these two steps, we can move quite ahead in our clean pollution plan. If the government decides today, like it did for demonetization, like it did for Corona and other such aspects, or for GST, this problem can be solved also. But I don't understand why the government is not looking at it.
Joyita, there's constant finger pointing in this issue between authorities. But do you think long-term scientific or technological interventions can meaningfully reduce the particulate matter levels that are the most harmful in Delhi? And why isn't health cost at the center of this entire pollution debate?
Well, when you are looking at, if you are going to look at Delhi specifically, it goes without saying when it comes to vehicular pollution is an issue. dust is the biggest issue in term when construction related dust. So, I think we need to come out with, and I am certain, and there are rules and regulations in place, but yes, it is, they are all violated. But if you can tackle dust in Delhi and look at it, it is not just that we are looking at construction related dust. Look at our roads. Have you noticed where the pavement ends and the tarring of the road happens, there is a stretch of dust? In no other city, capital city particularly, you will see that dust. And this is not just the story of Delhi, it is the story of every Indian city. Why is it that, and that itself, I mean, we are talking about hundreds and hundreds of kilometers of roads in terms of, obviously, I think more than thousands of kilometers of roads we are talking about inside the city, with every road having a stretch of dust. So, you start with fixing that, and that itself is going to, I would say, take care of the pollution to a large extent. I mean, if you are looking at vehicular pollution, we have some of the toughest rules and regulation when it comes to vehicular pollution. You are not even allowing people to drive their car after 15 years, even if they are in perfect condition, even if they are in pollution checked regularly. So, how much tougher can you go? Okay, you are forcing people to buy new vehicles every 15 years, or just sell them as scrap, or you sell them to areas which do not have this 15-year rule. How much tougher can you get? So, let us start with these basic things, take care of whatever that stretches on your roads, take care of your construction dust. I think that itself, if you can handle the dust part in Delhi in particular, that itself will reduce pollution to a great extent. And that haze that covers Delhi, okay, I mean, today only I think I saw some blue sky, so I was thinking maybe the pollution is not so bad. But once, because you see what happens in monsoon, once the dust settles because of water, then the pollution, the AQI is so much better. And the fact of the matter is that the pollution that we are currently seeing, this kind of, the horrendous numbers that we are getting, of course, Punjab has 3 times worse the situation. It's primarily because of crop burning, stubble burning. So, let us face that, we can keep on talking till the cows come home in terms of, this is what we have to do about controlling pollution in the city. Immediate emergency situation, fix the stubble burning.
Absolutely. Unfortunately, that's all the time that we have for this discussion. I want to thank all my guests, Dr. Bagai, Indrashekhar Singh and Joyita Basu, for joining us for this discussion. However, remember viewers, every year Delhi wakes up to a thick grey haze, and every year we ask the same questions. Who is responsible and what can we do to stop this? It's a public health emergency, period. That's the end of the discussion. A failure of collective will. A web of inaction is currently choking our lungs. The science is clear, the suffering is visible. What's missing is sustained accountability.